This is an outrage. President Trump is outraged. I'm outraged. The whole administration is outraged. And we are here to follow the money because that's what Treasury does. We have done that for years. We did it with the mafia. We have done it with the cartels. And now we are going to do it with these Somali fraudsters. And Treasury has something called FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and we are coming in, tomorrow we are announcing that 4 investigations into money service businesses that we believe may have wired money out of the country, a lot of the ill-gotten, stolen money over to the Middle East, over to Somalia. We'll see where that's going. So we're announcing investigations into 4 of those money service businesses. We are going to put in what we call a geographical targeting order. So there's something called a suspicious activity report if a certain amount of money gets wired
$10,000, right?
So we're lowering that to $3,000.
Oh, good.
And we're also targeting the 2 counties here, and we're going to do enhanced surveillance. And from now on, anyone who wires money out from one of these money service businesses has to check a box saying whether they are on public assistance. And if you are on public assistance, we are going to start pushing that you cannot wire money out of the country.
Oh, gosh. Well, what if they lie and they don't tell us for public assistance?
Well, then
That's a crime, lying on a federal form.
We're going to follow it up, and we are going to push that you can no longer do that. The American people, our generosity has been taken advantage of.
I agree. What's up, family? So we got to talk about something that's been flying under the radar for far way too long, but it's finally getting national attention. The Trump administration is stepping in to handle business that these Democrat-run states flat out refuse to do. And that's cracking down on straight up fraud in the welfare system. Like, let's keep it all the way real. We are paying taxes, right? You got people out here working 2 jobs, getting taxed to death. And meanwhile, that money is being finessed through all types of shady programs that are supposed to help people in need. Supposed to. But instead it's being flipped and sent overseas. And now the story is blowing up. The fraud that's allegedly been going on in places like Minneapolis. It's been going heavy on in there when it comes to Minnesota, especially involving the Somali networks, is now a full-on national scandal. But instead of addressing it head on, what the Democrats are doing, they're pulling a classic distraction move, right? Look over here, not over there. They're trying to drown it out with other headlines so folks don't realize how deep this rabbit hole goes. Enter Scott Besson, who you see on the screen right here where I just played this clip explaining how the program is going to be set up. Trump's Treasury Secretary, who finally said, all right, enough is enough. And he's putting some clamps on it, right? He just announced a ban on remittances for people on welfare. Now, let's break that down real simple because remittance is just a fancy word for sending money overseas, usually to family or friends in your home or in your home country, right? So what Besson is saying, if you're getting government help here in the United States, meaning your own food stamps, housing vouchers, Medicaid, all of that, then nah, you shouldn't be wiring money back to somebody in another country. And honestly, that makes sense, like a basic common sense level. That makes sense on a basic common sense level. And if you're getting help just to survive here, how are you able to send hundreds of thousands out the door? That's like asking your friend for gas money, then turn around and buying a bottle service for somebody else. It just don't add up. And here's the kicker. This move low key confirms what folks like Elon Musk and even memes like Doge have been screaming for years, right? When it comes to the memes and, everybody basically put in a lot of exposure when it comes to Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency when Doge existed, memeing it out, letting it be known, going viral all across the net because of Elon Musk going on and exposing his fraud. And that a big chunk of our government spending is just waste, fraud, and straight up abuse. That's what basically made Doge go so viral, right? where it made Democrats and the liberals mad to the point they were protesting Tesla, an American run business by an immigrant such as Elon Musk, who came to America and done things the right way and giving back, making a phenomenal electric car like Tesla, basically doing it in such a revolutionary way where we evolved when it comes to the auto manufacturing business, even though we know that Tesla isn't just a car or auto manufacturing company, right? It's not labeled under that. And if you don't know that it's not labeled under that, it's really labeled under a tech company. It's really a tech company, not just a auto manufacturing company, even though we know Tesla and Elon Musk to be connected to Tesla, which he came popularized for and made a lot of money off and became very wealthy. But this is what leadership looks like, is what I'm saying. When folks stop playing politics and start protecting taxpayers. All right. So now I want to move on to my next clip. I want you guys to check it out.
IRS called criminal investigations. And these men and women, they are cool cats. They can take apart a balance sheet and they can knock down a door and arrest someone. Like, they go out on patrols, they can make arrests. It's this very interesting hybrid force, about 2,500 of them, and they led the charge here. So it was IRS CIs who uncovered the initial fraud and the prosecutions. So it's with that group, with other groups at IRS, and with the powers of the Treasury to track where the money came from, where it's going. We saw this very unsettling news yesterday that many people involved here with the administration of these programs have tried to go back and they recreate documents, change documents, and we're not going to have that. We are going to hold people accountable. We're going to press this to the full extent possible. And like I said, I think that this may just be, it's a cold day outside, so this could be the tip of the iceberg here in Minnesota, but it's probably may not be as prevalent, but the dollars may be bigger and larger in other states. And just to put this in perspective for American taxpayers, for American families, the GAO, the General Accounting Office, believes that there is somewhere between 300 and 600 billion of annual fraud, roughly 10% of government spending,
Wow.
that disappears due to fraud. If we can recapture that, that is 1 to 2% of GDP.
Wow. And let's really talk about that, right? Because he said only 10% of government spending is fraud. Man, listen, I think that number is way too low. That's the government, trying to sound responsible without actually admitting how deep the mess goes. Because like he said, we're at the tip of the iceberg. But if we're keeping it 100, I personally believe it's closer to 20, 30, 40, maybe even 50%. And yeah, I said it, half. Half of what the government spends could straight up be fraud, waste, or just dumb spending. And I know that sounds wild until you actually sit down and think about the nonsense we see every year in these budgets. Like, just look at how the money moves, right? Billions going to programs that don't even help nobody, millions getting lost in administrative fees, government workers getting paid to literally sit on their hands, and contracts going to people's cousins, brothers, uncles who don't even do the job. It's like if your household budget was $5,000 a month and every month you just lit $2,500 on fire and said, oh, well. And that's the kind of madness we're dealing with. And now we're hearing reports. Listen to this. Where an actual auditor, this is not conspiracy theorists, not some YouTuber, but a state auditor is on the record saying that in Minnesota, Democrat state workers literally fabricated records. That means they made up fake paperwork, lied in the files, and covered up how they mishandled hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions. And you know how wild that is? That's not a typo. That's not a couple thousand missing from a drawer. That's a full-blown corruption from the inside, with people actually going into the system, changing numbers and making it look like everything's fine when it's not. But don't take my word for it. I want you guys to check out the clip.
Of the legislative auditor. released a damning report finding state employees fabricating records to cover up mismanagement of money, tax money. It's another black eye for the State Department of Human Services. And Lou Raguse is covering it and sat down with the legislative auditor.
This was definitely the most egregious thing I have seen, maybe in my whole time working at OLA.
After 27 years with the Office of the Legislative Auditor, a statement like that from Judy Randall means something. After past suspicions, she says her most recent audit proved state workers were fabricating documents to cover up mismanagement of taxpayer money.
So these documents should exist. They didn't. We asked for them. All of a sudden, they now exist. And in at least one case, it was created wholesale and backdated by 2 years to give the impression that it had always been there and been done on time.
The OLA audited the Behavioral Health Administration within the Department of Human Services, which issues grants, nearly $200 million of taxpayer money each year, to addiction and mental health service providers. But the audit found BHA was not making sure those providers were doing the work.
BHA didn't conduct the site visits. Our auditors went and conducted the site visits that BHA should have done. And we identified serious concerns that services weren't being provided.
One of the grants examined by OLA was $1.6 million issued to the Wellness Collaborative through Zion Baptist Church in North Minneapolis. According to the OLA report, BHA didn't have documentation to give auditors to show that the services were rendered. What's more, the audit says the grant manager directly profited by leaving BHA and months later providing consulting services to the Wellness Collaborative for the grant she managed, which Randall says is not illegal.
But I think it raises a bunch of ethical questions at the very least.
Representatives at Zion strongly dispute what BHA and DHS told the auditors. They tell KARE 11 DHS sought them out for the grant. They provided services which DHS workers witnessed. They gave DHS documentation, and they say now they believe they're being scapegoated. The former grant manager told KARE 11 any wrongdoing falls squarely on DHS.
Conduct a monitoring visit to make sure the services are actually being provided. These aren't rocket science types of things.
Randall says the audit found fewer than 1 in 5 DHS workers they surveyed felt adequately trained to scrutinize how the grant money is spent. And perhaps most frustrating, this was the second audit of the Behavioral Health Administration, and many of the problems found were repeat problems.
What is it like to see these problems, make these recommendations, and nothing is done to fix it?
It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Governor Tim Walz's office says they're grateful for the auditor for her work and for identifying these serious issues. And Democratic Senator Melissa Wickland, who chairs the Health and Human Services Committee, says that it's clear that DHS has not taken actions to fix these problems as they had portrayed to the senator.
Another smooth move from Governor Tim Walz to deflect and act like he's thanking the auditor for doing an amazing job, when at the end of the day, Minnesota Health and Human Services Department should have made sure that they had the documentation and it was up to par and it was legally done right, and funds should have never been mishandled, let alone documents being fabricated to the point where things seem as though they may seem. See, that's one thing I learned. What seems may always be not what it seems, right? And I find that very interesting because I had to learn that in life. A lot of things don't seem to appear as they are. And though, as you learn what they are, you'll really see what it really seem to be. Anything may seem a way, but not seen, no matter how it might seem. When pictures get depicted, they don't say the right thing. I'm going to say it again. Anything seem, but not seen, no matter how it might seem. When pictures get depicted, they don't say the right thing. And that's what it is with Governor Tim Walz and his fraud. It seemed as though he was trying to so-called help and prevent fraud. But when you look at it, the picture don't line up to the facts of the math not mathing, because whatever he made it seem as though he was doing to prevent fraud was actually is being seen that he was actually biased to a certain community, in this case the Somali community, to continue to gain the vote, the popular vote, which makes up the majority of Minnesota, out of the disrespect for other Minnesotans and other race. And this isn't about race or a certain community. And I'm not targeting the Somali community. But what I'm saying is these Somalians who committed these acts happen to be ones that committed these crimes, let alone with the crime and corruption that Governor Tim Walz took under his leadership of having all of these things when it comes to the Department of Human Services, who should have been effectively auditing, and all this money going out to the Daycare Learning Center, which is now shut down. And you mean to tell me they got $2 million and the Daycare Learning Center was saying it was open. The Department of Human Services saying they were shut down. It was a whole miscommunication. Now they just shutting down. And $2 million just go like that? So everything isn't what it may seem, family. And that's mind blowing to me. And when you look at this whole thing, right, this isn't accidental. This is intentional. And it's happening with your money, right? That's like your bank manager skimming from your account and then changing the screen so you can't see it. This isn't just Minnesota either. That's just one example that got caught. Imagine what's happening in the other places, all these other states that haven't been audited yet. If this doesn't show you how deep the fraud goes in our country, the United States, man, I don't know what will. And this ain't even politics anymore. It's straight up theft in broad daylight. And they're just hoping you're too distracted to notice, right? Now, let's really zero in on this Somali daycare situation. Because this right here is exactly what we're talking about when we say fraud is running wild and nobody's doing anything to stop it until it blows up in the news. Let's talk about this one spot, as I mentioned, the Quality Learning Center. Okay? So don't take my word for it. Before I go further, I want you guys to check out this clip in regards to the matter.
We are following up on a Minneapolis daycare at the center of questions about fraud in Minnesota's Child Care Assistance Program.
We have been tracking CCAP funding for more than a year. Investigative reporter Eric Rasmussen is here with new developments raising, Eric, even more questions.
You might have heard this name. We're talking about the Quality Learning Center near downtown Minneapolis. First it was closed, then it was open, and now we've confirmed it's closed again. That's all after the owners recently rejected allegations of stealing taxpayer money. Back at the Quality Learning Center in Minneapolis, it was a case of deja vu. Hi, this is Eric Rasmussen with KSTP Channel 5. We're still waiting for a response to our calls and emails looking for an explanation about what 5 Investigates found Wednesday morning. A search of the state's online system reveals Quality Learning Center now closed as of January 6th. A 180-degree turn after our cameras recorded a parade of parents and children into the business last week. The owners used that to refute a viral YouTube video claiming to expose empty daycares, collecting millions of taxpayer dollars.
Someone came to our building outside of operating hours.
So why is the daycare suddenly closed again? The Department of Children, Youth, and Families would only tell 5 Investigates that Quality Learning Center requested closure of their license on Tuesday. No answer from the daycare's owner when property records led us to this house in Shoreview looking for answers. What do you make of the fact that right after that big scene last week that they're closed again?
Well, to me, that's, where there's smoke, there's fire. Perhaps they're trying to avoid something.
State Rep Nolan West says questions about Quality Learning Center prompted him to send a letter to the head of DCYF demanding more transparency and accountability when it comes to which licensed daycare providers in Minnesota are actually open. A question KSTP has been asking for a long time since reporter Jay Coles found empty daycares receiving taxpayer funding a year ago. What do you think may actually come out of your letter, our reporting, all this attention?
Well, the idea is we need this to be taken seriously because we need bipartisan cooperation to pass any law in Minnesota. And clearly, we are in need of more anti-fraud measures.
As we reported last week, DCYF says that Daycare Quality Learning Center received $1.9 million in taxpayer funding in just the last fiscal year. Now, the agency declined our request for another interview today, but I can tell you it said the operators of Quality Learning Center must now reapply for another license if they ever want to reopen again.
It's hard to keep track of that center, what's been going on this week.
And the thing is, this place got over $1 million in taxpayer money, your money, my money to supposedly run a daycare. You think, okay, cool, this must be a big, legit operation helping kids serve the community, right? Nah, these people took the money, claimed they were open, were basically running a ghost daycare. Like I'm talking about people in the neighborhood saying, yo, I live next door. I drive by every day. I never seen no kid getting dropped off or picked up from there. And that's a major red flag. But here's the crazy part. Last week, they were swearing up and down that they were open. Like they had people showing up, acting like it's business as usual. Folks from the Somali community were literally pulling up to the daycare, pretending to drop off their kids like it was some kind of performance. Like, do you know how wild that is? It's like putting mannequins in the windows of a restaurant to make it look busy, but it ain't nobody actually eating there. Whole families were showing up just to make it seem like it was real, and then boom, a few days later, they shut it down again. Gone. Like they were never there. And this is after they got millions. So what happened to the money? Where did it go? Who signed off on it? How do you get shut down, reopen like everything's fine, and then get caught faking the funk and then just quietly shut down again like we're not going to notice? And this ain't some tiny mistake or misunderstanding. This is organized fraud. It's coordinated. It's bold. And it shows you just how easy it is to finesse the system when the people in charge don't actually care where the money's going. They just rubber stamp everything, collect their check, and look the other way. And by the time somebody raises the alarm, it's already too late. How many already too lates we're gonna have? The bag's been snatched, the building's empty, and the only thing left is a trail of fake paperwork and excuses. This is why folks don't trust the system, because stuff like this keeps happening, and instead of getting it cleaned up, it just gets buried. It's wild to me. It's wild to me. Return the money. So what do we do about the money? Make it make sense. Somebody please make this make sense. It's not adding up. The math ain't mathing. I'm gonna keep saying it because you're telling me this so-called daycare, the quality learning center, which is now sounding more like a quality scamming center, or the scams of the scammers of the nation of a quality scamming center of the daycare scams of national visibility of in the world's of United States history, received almost $2 million taxpayer money just last year. $2 million in taxpayer money just last year, not 200, not 2,000, 2 million, and they shut down again. Right? They made a federal investigation into fraud. Right? It's mind blowing to me. It is mind blowing to me. And the thing is, I can't wrap my head around it. And that's what I understand. So how do we get the money back? Like, what do we do about that? Can someone comment down and let me know? Or we just taking a loss as taxpayers, per usual. Right? So now I want to go to this situation in Congress, right? Because they had talked about this Minnesota fraud. And I find it interesting. Check it out.
And Chair recognizes Mr. Gill from Texas for the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing so expeditiously. We all know this is an important issue, not just in terms of welfare fraud, but also immigration more broadly. So we appreciate it. And thank you for the witnesses for taking the time to come here. I want to start with you, Mr. Balu. Again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somalis.
And nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here. So, again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working-age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again, I keep trying to.
It doesn't sound like something that makes our country stronger to me, and I think most Americans would agree with me on that. I need to move on. Ms. Robbins, when would you say we concretely knew that widespread welfare fraud was occurring in Minnesota?
There have been reports since 2009 from the Office of Legislative Auditor. I would say the credible reports on child care fraud started surfacing 2011 to 2013.
So for over a decade?
Yes, sir.
When do you think Governor Walz knew about this fraud?
From the very beginning. He was running for governor in 2018 when there were prosecutions going on, when there was an OLA report, active cases in the news all the time.
And what was the Walz administration's response?
They actually did nothing when they got into office, and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan had been on the committee in the legislature that had hearings on child care fraud, and when they got into office, they did put $5 million into a little more money, but nothing changed.
But nothing. And let me ask you, Mr. Hudson, thank you for being here. Did those who commit this fraud, do they typically vote for Republicans or Democrats, in your opinion?
In my opinion, thank you for qualifying like that, I would say they most definitely overwhelmingly vote for Democrats.
Do they typically donate to Republicans or Democrats?
Not to my knowledge. They don't donate to Republicans, they donate to Democrats, in my opinion, yes.
Got it. So would you say this is the Somali population is an important demographic for Democrats to win over politically?
Unquestionably.
Got it. And do you think it would have hurt Democrats' political standing with the Somali population to investigate this fraud?
Very clearly.
Got it. So in other words, you're saying that there was a political incentive to cover up widespread Somali fraud. Is that right?
100%.
Got it. Let me ask all three of you. Did the Walz administration and Democrats intentionally, in your opinion, overlook this fraud while it was happening for political gain? I'll start with you, Ms. Robbins.
Absolutely. We have credible whistleblower reports that the Department of Human Services administration up to the OIG and the commissioner met with a group called the Minnesota Minority Child Care Association multiple times, and that they were trying to weaken protections. We wanted, we had several changes we wanted to do, and they opposed all of them.
And Mr. Hudson and Ms. Rarick, and then my time is up.
I would agree.
Absolutely. The whistleblowers confirm it.
Got it. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That is wild. Since 2009, bro? Like, this is a real story. This is not headlines. They're feeding you not the smoke screens, not the distractions. This is what they don't want you talking about. This is what they're desperate to cover up with celebrity drama, race baiting, and cultural wars. The truth is, we're watching massive organized Somali fraud happening in real time right here in the U.S. And the government is just letting it rock. These folks, or I should say, let me put it like this, legislators in the state of Minnesota is letting it rock. Blue states, Democratic state, highly known for Minnesota to be. These folks, many of whom are overwhelmingly on welfare themselves, are somehow, the Somalians I'm talking about, are somehow out here starting so-called businesses with government welfare money and then flipping the cash right back out the country, in some cases allegedly sending it overseas to fund terrorist groups, allegedly. You heard that right? And American taxpayer money, your paycheck, your hours, your grind being funneled through fraudulent businesses and wired overseas to God knows who, and they expect us to not talk about it. That's why they want to shift the conversation. That's why they want to drown this out with noise. Because if the average American really sat down and saw what's happening with their hard-earned dollars, they would lose their minds. And who's making this possible? Let's call it what it is. It's these Democrats running these blue cities, these blue states, handing out government contracts, benefits like it's Halloween candy with zero oversight, zero accountability, and zero shame. And they lighting your taxpayer money on fire like it grows on trees. My mom always told me money don't grow on trees, son. But you're the ones who work hard every year just to stay afloat. You're the one watching prices go up, rents go up, paycheck get squeezed while they out here giving millions to fake daycares with no kids. It's wild. It's insane. And the fact that people aren't more outraged, that's what blows my mind. But that's the game. Keep you distracted, keep you confused, keep you emotional so you don't look at where the real scam is happening. But now we see it now. We locked in and we not letting this slide. Not no more. So if you want me, get this video a big thumbs up. Let me know your perspective down in the comments below because always we're having a conversation. Let the love supersede the hate. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. As always, we stand for truth. Truth over nonsense. Facts over feelings, baby. Peace.